But when the players found themselves in time trouble, that's when Magnus just cracked.
And there was a slip.
Overextended.
Got himself into queen ending.
Absolutely. And Praggnanandhaa, you give him one sniff of an initiative, and that's it.
Well, he kept it, and he won a long, long battle in a queen ending, and that in a row. And, well, here we go. Will he get his revenge from yesterday's shock defeat?
Well, d4, knight f6, c4, and is Praggnanandhaa
Bogo Indian, bishop b4 check.
Seeing whether he was going to challenge in the center, and Praggnanandhaa says no. Okay, he blocked the check with a knight, and now he's capturing that knight with the queen. What do we think about this type of position? It's a solid one for black.
It's a long, long theory. I used to enjoy playing the white side of this line of the Bogo Indian. When my opponents played knight d2, I didn't like going for this particular setup because after the move bishop b2, you'll say to yourself, well, this bishop is a poor diagonal. And that is the case. It truly is. But it also means that whenever you play c7, c5, you're doing me a solid favor.
Yeah, totally.
Open up that diagonal. Thank you. So it means that for black, it's very hard for black to get counterplay in the center based upon c5 and or e5 because you'll do so at the cost of opening up the bishop. Now, bishop e2, I don't think that was a very accurate move by Magnus. Rook c1, rook d1, queen c2 are much more common. Bishop e2, and Pragg said, okay, you're losing a tempo. I'll play d takes c5, and you can see that Magnus has played bishop e2 and bishop takes c4. So now there is one critical question to ask. Should I capture on f3 and double the pawns? You're shaking your head.
As
no?
I like to inflict some pawn weaknesses on my opponent, in this case, no, the bishop is beautiful there on the long diagonal.
Well, look what he's done.
Praggnanandhaa decides to accelerate the play, strike whilst the white king is in the middle of the board. I mean, yes, this bishop on b2 looks very impressive now, but it actually is not participating in anything concrete. You know, black has access to the beautiful e4 square. The queen can centralize, the two rooks can connect. I'm a big fan of connecting rooks.
Yeah, of course, we should. We should all aspire to connect our rooks. I'll have to disagree with you, though. That bishop on b2, it's going to be a lurking monster for quite a while. You're right, nothing concrete and immediate. No. Nothing concrete and immediate for white, but there's always, the threat is stronger than the execution. One day when that diagonal is open, it's going to be a big, massive advantage white. We'll see what Pragg is going to do. He's got to do something rather quickly, and he might even be thinking already about moves like b5, bishop takes b5, and queen a5 check as a way of getting some counterplay. If white is allowed simply castles, bring the rooks to the center.
Then white has that small edge.
Well, he's got the two bishops.
Yes.
And our predecessors called it a minor exchange. You won.
Well, I have a question for you. If you capture on d4, which way are you recapturing? And Praggnanandhaa has gone for it. Bishop takes. And here...
And he played after bishop takes some moves. I saw
taken. And now the big question is, how are you going to harass these bishops?
Well, again, I'm going to play castles and bring my rook to the
rooks
center.
To the center.
You're welcome to play e5. You're welcome to play e5 if you like. I mean, not immediately. Yeah, doesn't matter. After you play e5, I've castled. I'll put my bishop back on b2. My bishop on c4 will be looking pretty good, lurking, if you won't. And your knights won't have really
But he's gone
squares.
For a6, your idea of playing b5 and just asking questions to the light square bishop. But queen b2, setting up a battery on those dark squares.
Yeah, and looking to redeploy his bishop back to e2 after the move b6, b5. Not convincing play, but even so, after a little hesitation by Magnus, still like his 2 bishops. I like the dark square bishop on the long diagonal, and well,
Okay.
here we go.
Bishop takes knight. Pawn structure has been crippled
Compromised.
somewhat. Yeah, and now queen to e7.
Okay, so
Okay.
here's a key moment. Question for ourselves, do we want to allow e5 or not? Personally, I'm castling, getting my king out of danger and allowing e6, e5. Others might like the move f4 just to slow down e5.
I'm of the f4 idea.
You're on the f5.
Yes, because I also feel that it's very helpful because this light square bishop doesn't want to be on c4. It actually wants to be on the long diagonal, either on f3, g2, just to protect the king somewhat. And, okay, well, Magnus has gone for your suggestion of castling.
Sure.
And now we've got to accelerate the play. Because otherwise, if the happy moves are allowed, then white is going to be comfortably better with the bishop pair. And b5,
Bishop e2.
bishop retreats, and now I'm expecting e5.
And he's done it.
Get
Bishop.
going, yes.
There was a big threat, by the way. The threat was to play bishop to b4, so the move knight d5 was well timed. It not only stopped bishop b4, but also attacked the bishop, and Magnus very quickly said, my advantage in the position is the 2 bishops. I want to preserve them. Bishop a5.
And in terms of the clock time, we see that
Yes.
Pragg is actually lagging seriously behind on the clock. It's now down to 1 minute and 15 seconds, whereas Magnus, 3 minutes and 46. He has
That's
all
a
the
comfy.
time in the world.
That's a comfortable advantage. If I'm in white shoes, I'm very eager to play the move king h1 and rook g1, utilizing the g file so I can play for f4. I was wondering about queen h4 for Pragg to post up. He didn't do it, and again, I'm kind of expecting the move king h1 followed by rook g1. Those half-open g files can be useful. Nope.
Again, rook c1.
Playing for the open c file, rook c1.
Okay, but there's no entry points as of yet.
No.
So Pragg
c6,
just plays rook
c7.
a c8. I see an open king and I want to head that direction. And so I was expecting maybe f5. And, well, we see the trade of rooks.
And Magnus is saying with the rooks off the board,
But this
any
must be good for white.
Oh yeah, well it's been good for white ever since the 2 bishops. I want to say that the slight vulnerability with the rooks off the board of the white king is lessened. There's no rook checks. Good move. Knight to e7, covering the c8 square. Maybe playing for knight c6 as well. Ooh.
And just to update you
Please.
on some news between Vincent Keimer and Wei Yi. Wei Yi in trouble against Vincent Keimer.
That's an alert.
So if Magnus wins and Wei Yi loses,
Right.
1.5 point difference. Okay.
The gap could narrow, but it's a 2.5 point gap. That's huge. By the way, queen c7 was a really nice move, and so was a4. Again, that whole point is that when you think about chess in the sense that we're both starting with 8 pawns, over the course of the game, it's natural that we will trade pawns. As we trade pawns, the position opens up, and as the position opens up,
but look
the
at
bishops start to assert
And
themselves.
talking about the bishop,
Well, that's the
bishop
point.
has come in to c4, attacking the queen. The queen has limited squares to go to on account of those vulnerable knights.
Exactly. For example, a move like queen c6 allows queen d8 check, and queen takes
17 seconds, ticking down.
versus 2.5 minutes.
Pragg goes for the
Oof.
counterattack, knight to d5, probably
Well,
the best shot. But
Counterattack is one way of putting it. Self-pinning is
Self-pinning is
another
another
way
one.
of putting it. Okay, we're attacking the queen. We've got queen c8 check, followed by recapturing on a4. Is there something more?
Well, you also have the queen giving a check and then e4. That's a possibility as well.
Yes.
Although you
Taking
then
advantage
have
of
to
the
work
pin.
out the consequences because black does have an asset there on a4.
We've always got to cover with a. I love queen c8 check, followed by e4. I think Magnus is trying to understand in his mind mentally what's the difference. which check will be better. Check on d8, check on c8, play e4. You can't play e4 immediately because our queen is hanging.
He's gone for queen c8.
Queen c8 check, and we would assume e4 is his next follow-up. As you say, there is an
7
a-pawn.
seconds. And he decides first to capture on a4.
Okay.
Eliminate the risk there. He has e4 in his pocket. How is Black going to get out of the pin? And Pragg quickly puts the queen on d6.
Allowing queen takes a6.
Yeah.
Let's snip a pawn.
And Magnus goes for it.
And very quickly, you can't trade queens. That's just acquiescing to a lost game. Now I think it's time to just come back, whether to e2 or f1. Enjoy the fact that we're actually a pawn to the good, and we're in a little bit of a pin as well. Queen to c5. Okay. Well, now it's time to queen b5.
b5, and now queen c2. Pragg is trying.
Oh yes, he is.
He's in hustle mode.
Yes.
And knight takes bishop, and
Ooh,
Magnus
there goes a
wins
pawn.
the e5 pawn with check. Pragg, 6 seconds on the clock.
Will we see another queen ending? Queen check, queen takes b6, queen takes e2, king b7, king g2. Sorry, we're up 2 pawns and a queen ending. That should be enough.
That's very clinical. And
very nice.
Also, another possibility is perhaps to go a5.
Yes, also very strong.
And again, to update you on the results, Gukesh won against his countrymate Arjun Eric Icy. So nice bounce back there from the 17-year-old.
Bishop b5. Too many pawns. Too many pawns. You like that? That was a...
Very good.
My attempt at humor. Too early. Bishop b5. Trying to play good minor piece versus bad minor piece. In other words, dominate the knight.
a4, the knight moves quickly to c8. But the white king is completely safe, and this bishop is dominant. And we see a handshake there from Praggnanandhaa.
Wow, very impressive game by
Magnus.
Magnus.
He means business.
He does. Now, what happened in the way he